Hi guys, a very welcome back to Mentor and yet another video podcast. It's fantastic to see you all here. I am really humbled by all the support I've been receiving from you guys for the last couple of videos. It's very nice to hear your opinions, your suggestions for future content, and I really like to hear that you like the content that I've been giving so far. It really warms to hear that. So today guys, I am going to talk a little bit about, I'll give you a brief like I used to do with my technical videos about recurrent training and checking. So I'll tell you a little bit about what you can expect once you get into an airline when it comes to simulator checking, simulator training and recurrent line checks, okay? So stay tuned to the end on this one guys. I'll tell you a little bit about how it works, why we do it and how we do it. And then at the end I'm going to give you some tips on how to stay not being too nervous about your sim tests, okay? How to succeed in them. And also I might throw in a little bit of cloud surfing at the end. Right, so recurrent training and checking guys. So once you've done your initial training, so you've done your type rating and your line training and the associated checks that comes with that, then you'll be turned into the recurrent training system that any airline has. It differs a little bit between different companies. So in the smaller airlines you might have a little bit less recurrent training in the simulator and maybe a little bit more in the aircraft. And in the bigger airlines you tend to have more simulator training and maybe more checking as well. I'm going to give my company as an example in this video obviously. So what we want to try to achieve when we do recurrent training, first of all, is to make sure that all our line pilots are being kept up to date with their technical knowledge, their operational when it comes to procedural knowledge, and also that they get fed back whatever tendencies that we see out in the line system. So the company gets a lot of reports back in from their pilots. We also have a OFDM system, which is basically a monitoring system for the aircraft that shows if there's any trends when it comes to how we fly the aircraft. So for example, if we're doing a lot of high energy approaches, or that people are starting to take out flaps at too high speeds, or things like that. That get fed back into the company, and the company then uses that data to form our recurrent training, so make sure that we meet any trends that we see developing, okay? So we have, as you are probably well aware, there's quite a lot of technical systems on a Boeing 737. So we have to spread that out into several different sim sessions, and the way that is done is we've taken all of the technical systems and we've put them into a 3-year cycle. Every year you do 3 simulator sessions. One is an operator proficiency check rolled in together with some recurrent training. The OPC is done in our airline. We do that during the summer. It's a shorter version of the full check. It's just to make sure that we on a 6-month basis check that all our pilots are more or less up to speed and know how to fly the procedures and stuff. But since that check is a little bit shorter, it means that during that one day we can fit both the operator proficiency check and recurrent training in the same day. So it generally starts with the check, and then we focus on whatever training elements that we need to do, whatever systems that needs to be trained during that session. Then during the winter we do what's called a license proficiency check, an LPC. That's when we extend the rating validity and the license validity. So that's a bigger check. That's done as a whole day. It's a 5-hour session. And in that check we need to show that we know how to operate the aircraft in both normal and non-normal maneuvers. That's the same in the OPC actually, but this one starts from when we're at the gate, and the pilots will have to demonstrate how, to set up the aircraft, push back, start the engines, taxi out. Every single part of the operation has to be checked in that one. While in the OPC we can start on the runway and just do the flying maneuvers. So that's the main difference between the two. But I'll go more into the checking in a second. So in the wintertime we do that, we do the LPC, and we also do a full 5-hour training session. So in that day we can cover much more of the systems that we want to refresh on, the CRM aspects that we also are practicing continuously, and together all of these 3 days every year combined over a 3-year period becomes 6 different sim sessions where we can practice the system's knowledge. So during 3 years, 3 sessions each every year, we will be covering every aspect of the aircraft technical system. Does that make sense? So that keeps rolling. Or when the next 3-year period starts, we will start over from the beginning with the same kind of systems. But obviously, since we do get this feedback from the line of what's happening, the training sessions are not going to look the same, and they're also going to focus on different parts of the same technical system. So while you might have had a failure in the air conditioning pack when we were practicing the air conditioning system, then next time maybe there is a bleed trip off or something else. Okay, so they will be differing slightly when they come next time. All right, so that's the recurrent training part. In these recurrent training parts, we also focus on the manual handling of the aircraft. So obviously, when we have passengers on board, we won't be doing much manual training in the aircraft. We won't be switching off autopilots unless we need to, or we won't be switching off flight directors and fly raw data and things like that. That's done in the simulator. So we're trying to, and more now, we're pushing in more and more manual handling and raw data flying and stuff into our simulator sessions to make sure that people are up to date when it comes to their manual flying skills. All right? Right, so coming back to the tests then. We need to, as an airline, we need to make sure that our pilots are constantly up to date and constantly maintaining the skills needed in order to fly safely within controlled airspace, right? The governing aviation authorities puts this onto the airlines, and the airlines then makes these OPCs and LPC checks, okay? Which means that they look pretty much the same all the time, because there's the same kind of things that needs to be checked all the time. So after a while, you kind of learn what is going to come, more or less. There are differences as in what systems might fail and stuff, but the sequence that things are done and the things that needs to be included is going to be the same more or less every time. So there needs to be, in the case of an LPC, for example, we need to check the normal checklists handling. That's done when we start the aircraft up, when you taxi out, things like that. There needs to be a normal takeoff and a normal SID. There's going to be some kind of system malfunction that will let the crew handle the anomaly, the malfunction handling, basically. So you can see how the crew is handling that. Then you tend to be turned back or diverted into an airport where you can do a non-precision approach, followed by a circling approach. For those of you who don't know what that is, they are slightly more challenging approach maneuvers. Then there needs to be a takeoff. Generally speaking, if the airline has low visibility, if they're approved to flying low visibility, there will be a low visibility session as well. So you take off in minimum takeoff RVR, which is 125 meters with all the lights working. Then you will have a category 3 ILS approach with some kind of failure normally in it, followed by a go around and a category 3 approach to a landing. Okay. Then we get into the single engine bit of the check, which tends to be a takeoff with an engine failure at the worst possible moment, which is at V1, followed by a departure single engine, complete handling of the failure as in all the non-normal checklists, trying to restart the engine, setting the aircraft up for a single engine ILS approach, that needs to be manually flown, and that's a check requirement just to make sure that we have the handling skills needed to fly it single engine if we need to. So it's a single engine ILS followed by a single engine go around, and then a single engine ILS followed by a single engine landing. Okay. Then at some point in the session there will be a takeoff with a rejected takeoff and a passenger evacuation. Okay. These are the things that needs to be in every single LPC check, and it's more or less the same when you do the OPC as well. Okay. There are very specific requirements as to what kind of speed you need to keep, headings, tracks to be flown, altitudes, deviations, all of that have very specific requirements that me as a type rating examiner watches very closely during the check. Right? Okay, so do you need to be afraid when you go into the simulator? Now, the simple answer to that question is no, you don't. It's, you know, when I go into my sim, I have my own simulator check in about 3 weeks from now. I am pumped up, as in I want to perform well. I really do, and I you know, that's how I feel. But am I nervous? No, I'm not nervous. The reason for that is I know, first of all, the company, the instructors, the examiners, they want nothing else but for me to succeed, for you to succeed. Okay, there's no one out to get you, and I'm speaking for me and my airline here. There might be some differences out in there in the world, but generally speaking, everyone wants you to succeed. Okay, everyone wants you to exceed your own expectation and succeed in the check. If you would have a bad day, which everyone can have, you know, it can happen to everyone that maybe you have some stress at home, maybe you haven't been able to prepare as much as you would like. That can happen to anyone, and if that happens and you do fail, okay, you will not be kicked out. It's not like you will lose your job. That you hear that all the time. Well, you know, this is the only job in the world where you might lose your job twice a year. It's not the case. It just isn't. If you have a weak area, or if you've had a really bad day and you have managed to fail a couple of items in your check, the only thing that will happen is that the instructor will sit down, will have a good debrief with you guys, ask you why that happened, see what the reason was behind, and then line up what needs to be improved, how you can do things better, and then you will be taken out of line, so you can't be flying if you fail the check. But that will only be done until you have done your retraining in the simulator. So you will get a session in the simulator with an instructor practicing these things that didn't go well in the check, and then once you've practiced up to the standard needed, then you will do another check, and hopefully you'll pass those items, and you will be back out on the line flying again. All right, that's what's going to happen. So even if you have a really bad day, and I'm saying a really bad day because mostly if you're really well prepared for this generally doesn't happen. But if it happens, the only thing that will happen is you will be retrained, rechecked, and put back on the line. Okay, that's the thing. We know people are human. You know, people will make mistakes. They will have bad days. So do you need to be really nervous when you get into the sim? No. Do you need to prepare? Yes. There is going to be a substantial amount of material that we are expecting you guys to have read through. In my airline, we send out a really comprehensive briefing pack to all our pilots. So you're going up for recurrent training. These are the areas that we are focusing on this check. Please really read these chapters in your technical manual, your operations manual. We'll be discussing this. These are the CRM items. We'll give you a Moodle course, which is an interactive CPT course. Please do that. Take with you your answers to whatever questions that is posed to you. Recurrent, there is also a technical questionnaire that we do for every session, an SOP questionnaire as well. Bring that with you, read through everything, and if you come really well prepared, it's very unlikely that you're going to have any problems in the simulator. I promise you that. Okay. A lot of people fear the sim, and the fear causes most of the problems. Okay, people are afraid that they're going to fail. They're afraid that the instructor is out to try to get them. They see failures where there are none. It's called simulatoritis, when you're constantly looking for faults that you never would in the real aircraft, and it only gets you into trouble. So come there, be pumped up, as in be ready to perform, be well prepared, but don't be scared and don't look for things that aren't there. Just relax and fly like you would when you're flying on the line, and you will do just fine. Okay. Another thing, this comes into my tips for how to do well in the simulator. If you make a mistake, and you will, every single time I'm in the simulator myself, I make mistakes. Every time that you do a sim check, from now until the end of your career, you will make mistakes in the simulator. Everyone does, okay? If you do not dwell on it. And this is imperative for you guys. Do not fixate on a problem or a mistake that you know you made. Because you will make mistakes, sort them out, leave it behind you. If you've made a bad mistake, so let's say that you have done an exercise that you feel yourself that you didn't do well on, then the examiner has the prerogative to repeat any item once at the end of the session. So it's not going to be repeated just after you've done it, it's going to be repeated at the end of the session if the examiner thinks that it needs to be repeated. So you might have done a so-and-so exercise, then if you've passed it, you've passed it. You know, there's going to be a debrief on it. But if you've done something that you've actually failed and the rest of the check is good, then the examiner might repeat one item once at the end of the session. So just leave it behind you. Do not dwell on it. Because what tends to happen is that people screw something up, and then they sit and the next exercise they're still thinking about what they screwed up last time. And you can see the snowball is starting to move, because then they screw up the next session, the next exercise, and the next. So just take a deep breath. If something happened, take a deep breath and get on with it. Go on with the next session, or sorry, the next exercise, okay? The next thing that I want to tell you guys is help each other out. It's becoming more and more important to be CRM skilled in this job, okay? So when you're into the simulator, you'll have the chance to, during both normal and non-normal maneuvers, to really help each other out. You see your colleagues getting stressed, then help him or her out, you know? Take some stress off them. Maybe don't read a checklist if you see that he or she is not listening properly. And if you see that they're about to make a mistake, you speak up and make sure that it doesn't happen. The better you guys work together, the better you guys help each other out, the more successful your crew will be and you will be individual, because you are also assessed not only on your flying skills as pilot flying, but also on your monitoring skills. The better you are, the more you help each other out, the more impressed the guy behind you will be, the better your grade will be. All right? So do that. Remember that you're a team and you need to help each other out. That's the simulator, guys. So recurrent training, recurrent checking, you will have up to 2 checks a year. When it comes to line checks, guys, it's similar. Once you're into the annual line checking system, you tend to do 1 line check per year. The way that is done is you do a normal flight from A to B, but the only difference is that there will be a line training captain sitting on the jump seat assessing you as a crew. Okay, you might have to do a non-precision approach as part of the check if the weather allows you to, but that's the only thing. So the line trainer will be sitting behind, taking notes, listen to what you do, and then after the flight is done, you'll go back and you will have a debrief about what the line training captain has seen, if there's something that can be improved, if there is items that needs to be improved because they're not following SOPs, things like that. Okay, you can fail one of those as well. If you do something safety related, then the line trainer will normally interrupt you during flight, say that is not safe, we can't do that, and then you might fail the check. And the same thing applies there. You might get some additional training, and then it is going to be another line check, and then you'll be back out online again. So, but generally speaking, this is to improve. All of this, all the recurrent checking, all the recurrent training is for you guys to improve, and for the airline to make sure that we maintain the standard so that we can always assure safe flight, which is the paramount thing in this business. So guys, that's recurrent training and checking. If you have any questions on this, as always, send in your questions here in the comments field. Press like if you like it, share this with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. I'm trying still to grow the channel, guys, so all help from you is greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoy the content, and I'll see you on my next podcast. Have a fantastic day.